Hello everyone. Welcome to my YNR 24 Spoilers channel. Will Sally experience another heartbreak? Why she had to release Billy? Sally Spectra appears to be preparing herself for more heartache, according to previews and updates for The Young and the Restless. Sally should have fired Billy Abbott, but now she will only be held accountable for her own suffering if he hurts her again. For Billy, Sally threw away her Marchetti career. Sally gave up a fantastic career at Marchetti, where she was getting more and more success every day. She was talented and passionate about fashion, but she decided to leave it all to work with Billy at Abbott Communications. Unfortunately, Billy and Chancellor's relationship has suffered greatly as a result of Billy's preoccupation with Chancellor. Their passion has undoubtedly been impacted by his desire to prove himself to Jill Abbott and exact revenge on Victor Newman. YNR supporters are aware that Billy eventually forced Jack Abbott to stop providing finance and gave his whole attention to a collaboration with Kane Ashby that soon collapsed. Sally has been waiting for Billy to prioritize her, but as of right now, that hasn't happened. Sally had only been waiting for Billy to put her first for once. It shouldn't be too much to ask that Billy put Sally ahead of Chancellor and all of his resentful whims. Billy says he's ready to do things right this time and put Sally first. But will he be able to follow through on his commitment? Billy's prior actions make it difficult to believe that he will truly change, and even if he does, it probably won't last long. There are no guarantees, but Billy is keen to get Abbott Communications some cash and move on with reviving this media endeavor. However, Billy was far too willing to put Sally's accomplishments in danger and let his own self-interest win out. Billy is not reliable. Does Sally really believe that if Billy is given another chance, he won't make the same mistakes? Billy's past actions make it doubtful that he will truly put Sally first or give her the consideration she so well deserves. Sally's words and nervous facial gestures in the September 26th episode make it evident that she is still struggling with some uncertainties. Billy will undoubtedly find another diversion that diverts his attention and causes further turmoil in his relationship with Sally, even if he is able to get over his fixation with Chancellor. Billy just has this propensity, and Sally may come to regret not following her gut and instead falling for his most recent promises. Will Victor finally lose when Kane and Jack join forces? Updates and spoilers for The Young and the Restless make us wonder, is it time for Victor Newman, Eric Braeden to lose? Depending on how things develop from this point on, Jack Abbott and Kane Ashby's new tactic could drastically change the plot. There are many business stories in the CBS soap opera where Victor prevails. There are a lot of business-related stories on The Young and the Restless, so Victor and Newman Enterprises are frequently, in fact almost always, involved. Since the conclusion of those stories is always the same, Victor wins again and no one else ever has a chance. They are usually very boring. We understand that Victor is a strong man, but he might use a little defeat now and then. If Victor wins every time, there isn't much excitement. Victor's new partnership with Jack offers an intriguing chance, even if only to stir things up and give the mustache an excuse to retaliate even more forcefully. Nikki will express her worries that Victor is hurting Jack by using the truce. Nikki Newman will voice her concerns about the possibility that Victor may use Jack's olive branch to hurt him in the episode that airs on September 29th. But if it's the other way around, the genuine twist could happen. What happens if Jack manages to use this alliance against Victor? Since Jack is aware that this relationship is just temporary, he needs to be prepared for Victor to once again become a true enemy. Even while they work together against Kane, Jack will continue to be conscious of the fact that this ceasefire is unlikely to last. Victor and Jack are both hopeful that Jill Abbott, Jess Walton, would be able to influence Kane and steer him in a less evil direction. Could Victor lose if Jill persuades Kane to team up with Jack? This might expose Kane to whatever negative information Jack and Victor are preparing to share with him next. Even though the plan could partially succeed, Jill still goes by the last name Abbott and is inextricably linked to the family because of her son, Billy Abbott. To put it another way, Jill might end up supporting Team Abbott and convincing Kane to join forces with Jack. This could be Jack's chance to surprise Victor by forming a fresh alliance and appending his longtime enemy. Any evil scheme the mustache would hatch for Kane might be thwarted by Jack, who would use it against Victor instead. Victor losing would be a big change, even if it were only temporary. There has always been intrigue, treachery, and heartache on the young and the restless. Sally Spectra, the protagonist of this current plot, is once again caught in a difficult situation where she must choose between love, ambition, and the ongoing upheaval Billy Abbott, Jason Thompson, brings into her life. The worry that many fans have about Sally's involvement with Billy is this: is she putting herself at risk for further heartache, and should she have just let Billy go before it was too late? Viewers have watched Sally develop, stumble, and rise again. Intricate relationships are ideal for soap operas, but Sally and Billy's romance is not only convoluted, it is also inevitably disastrous. This relationship is weak at best and catastrophic at worst because of Billy's incapacity to prioritize Sally and his restless fixation with economic rivals. Even though Sally has proven to be resilient and adaptable during her voyage through Genoa City, this particular love story might not have a happy ending. Rather, it can leave her broken again, wondering why she gave up so much for a man who doesn't appear to care about her. For Billy, Sally threw away her Marchetti career. Sally's decision to leave her successful work at Marchetti is among the most perplexing decisions she has made in recent memory. For devoted watchers, Sally's inventiveness and perseverance were at last being acknowledged in the fashion industry. She was creating her own legacy in addition to thriving. However, she abandoned everything to support Billy and his dubious media endeavor, a decision that shocked a lot of people. The choice reveals more about Sally's frailty than her aspirations for her career. She had it all on paper: influence, momentum, and talent. Marchetti was more than simply a job. It was a platform that, after years of battling to establish herself in Los Angeles, gave her confidence. In a society that once derided her as a gaudy con artist, Sally had battled valiantly for legitimacy. Marchetti represented her development into a strong, independent woman. So why abandon it all? Her complex need for approval and connection from others around her holds the key to the solution. Despite her fierce independence, Sally has frequently been influenced by the men in her life, whether it was her failed love affairs in Los Angeles or her breakup with Adam Newman more recently. Billy came across as someone who got her and wished to work with her to create a future. Regretfully, Sally was blind to the fact that Billy frequently makes empty promises. By discarding Marchetti, Sally bound herself to a guy who prefers danger and mayhem to security. This choice foreshadows future heartache because Billy's unresolved conflicts will always overshadow her identity and value, regardless of how hard she works at Abbott Communications. Billy's fixations always take precedence. Billy Abbott's hunger for approval and his need for vengeance have always been his two greatest loves. Unfortunately for Sally, she is not a part of any of these loves. Every waking moment is consumed by his rivalry with Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, and his persistent fixation with Chancellor. Billy claims to be ready to change, yet his behavior betrays this. Billy is fundamentally restless. He has never been able to commit to a single position, venture, or partnership without ruining it. Billy's past speaks for itself, whether it is through his gambling, his impetuous business choices, or his incapacity to refrain from intervening. Fans have witnessed innumerable partners become disillusioned by Billy's actions, and his brother Jack Abbott, Peter Bergman, has spent years cleaning up his mess. This pattern is already recurring for Sally. She deserves to be Billy's top priority, which is what she wants. However, history demonstrates that Billy's assurances are short-lived. He prioritizes outperforming Victor and proving himself to Jill Abbott, Jess Walton, over pursuing his relationship with Sally. Billy's mentality simply will not permit him to focus on Sally, even if he truly thinks he can. Sally is regrettably allowing the repercussions to happen because he is predisposed for drama. Can Sally believe what Billy says? The crux of Sally's predicament is one unpleasant reality. Billy is unreliable. He doesn't intentionally try to offend those who care about him, yet his decisions always end in disappointment. This was particularly evident in the episode from September 26th. Every time Billy made future promises, viewers saw Sally's apprehension and nervous facial expressions. Her internal conflict, she wants to believe him, but she knows better, was represented in those moments of uncertainty. In every relationship, trust is delicate, and when one person consistently betrays it, it is almost impossible to repair. Sally had already given up her individuality, her profession, and her confidence to follow Billy's example. When Billy will disappoint her is the question, not if he will. Sally will have to pick up the pieces once more after he does. Billy is distracted by the business conflict between Victor, Jack, and Kane. The constant competition between Newman and Abbott is part of the broader setting for this romance. The young and the restless narrative has been influenced by Victor Newman's propensity for winning business disputes. However, the soap opera is teasing a potential reorganization. Will Victor be outwitted by Jack Abbott and Kane Ashby's new partnership? Naturally, Billy can't help but get involved in this conflict. The chance to establish himself against titans like Victor entices him more than concentrating on Sally and creating a future with her. Billy's ambition constantly takes precedence over Sally. Therefore, every decision he makes in this field jeopardizes their relationship. Jack is aware that any truce with Victor is just temporary, and Nikki Newman, Melody Thomas Scott, has already expressed concerns about Victor taking advantage of alliances. How is Sally supposed to expect Billy to make time for her when there are such erratic power battles going on? In actuality, she is unable to. Billy has conflicting priorities, and Sally will always be marginalized. The reasons Sally should have released Billy. It seems brutally clear now. Sally should have severed her relationship with Billy before jeopardizing her emotional health, job, and peace of mind. She would have maintained her independence and avoided being pulled into a vicious circle of instability if she had let him go. Sally can still find love if she breaks up with Billy. Actually, letting go of him could pave the way for a more balanced, healthy relationship down the road. Supporters are aware of Sally's strength, resourcefulness, and capacity to start over. Billy doesn't have to explain her story to her. The tragedy in this case is not only that Sally is putting herself in danger of heartache, but that she is aware of it. Although she has always had good instincts, her heart continues dragging her back into situations where she makes too many concessions. She will keep going through this cycle until she learns to put herself first. Conclusion: an impending heartbreak. Is Sally going to experience heartbreak once more? Unfortunately, it appears that the answer is yes. Billy Abbott is not a stable person, and his history virtually assures that he will continue to disappoint. Sally will probably have to face the repercussions of staying, even if she should have let him go when she had the opportunity. However, in soap operas, heartbreak frequently acts as a catalyst for change. Fans might see Sally rise stronger than ever when she finally hits her breaking point, possibly even taking back her position in fashion or surprising everyone by outwitting Billy and Victor. Because Sally's heart is once again at stake, viewers will watch with a mixture of pity and frustration until that time. Sally's habit of selecting inappropriate men. We must examine Sally's past in order to completely see why her current relationship with Billy is risky. Although Sally Spectra has always had a strong, independent spirit, her romantic choices have frequently been influenced by her ambition to excel. Her desire to advance in the fashion industry in Los Angeles drove her to engage in dishonest business practices that tarnished her reputation. Even if she has changed since then, she still uses relationships as stepping stones, and some of her behaviors persist. Sally's relationship with Adam Newman, Mark Grossman, seemed electric when she first arrived in Genoa City. There was no denying their chemistry, and for a few seconds, it appeared as though Sally had met a man who could relate to her complex combination of fragility and ambition. Adam appreciated her power and supported her creativity, but he distanced himself when things became chaotic. Sally was devastated, and rather than getting better on her own, she became entangled with Billy. This tendency keeps Sally stuck in a cycle of heartbreak because she continues switching men without giving herself time to regain her independence. She keeps telling herself that the next man will treat her differently, but in truth, she hasn't learned to stand firmly on her own before jumping into another dangerous relationship. How Adam and Billy are different. Billy and Adam are compared to show how dangerous Sally is now. Despite his imperfections, Adam has occasionally showed Sally that he genuinely cares about her. Because of his tumultuous relationships with Chelsea and Sharon, he was unable to fully commit, which ultimately led to his collapse. Adam, however, never intentionally undermined Sally's job or treated her like a side project. Billy, meanwhile, is the epitome of disorder. Unlike Adam, he purposefully pulls Sally into his unstable orbit, and his judgments are rash and frequently harmful. Billy draws Sally closer, whether she wants to or not, in contrast to Adam, who took a step back to keep her safe. That's the main distinction. Billy's love is reckless and consuming, whereas Adam's love was imperfect but protective. One day, Sally could come to understand that her feelings for Billy were merely another manifestation of instability. The shadow of Jill Abbott over Billy. The influence of Jill Abbott is another element that Sally cannot overlook. Billy's urge to prove himself to his mother, who has always had a strong influence on him, is largely responsible for his latest preoccupation with Chancellor. In essence, even if subtly, Sally and Jill are vying for Billy's attention. Billy has always been expected to take charge and be a capable leader by Jill, but rather than encouraging stability, her expectations encourage him to take greater chances. Expected to stand by Billy as he pursues one disastrous endeavor after another, Sally finds herself caught in the crossfire. Billy will never be able to give Sally his whole attention unless he can free himself from this constant desire for acceptance. This adds even more annoyance to Sally's decision for viewers. She had the option to remain at Marchetti and establish a reputation for herself. Instead, because of a man who can't distinguish between work and romantic conflicts, she entered conflict that she didn't initiate. Sally's potential future. Sally has two options if, and probably when, Billy lets her down. Either she breaks the pattern and regains her freedom, or she collapses once more. Sally has the capacity to rise from the ashes stronger than before, according to supporters who have supported her from her time in Los Angeles. She might start a new business, bring back her fashion career, or even challenge the men who undervalued her. That's the kind of plot Sally deserves. A woman who previously looked to men for approval eventually learns to validate herself. It's unclear if the authors will give her that storyline, but one thing is for sure. Heartbreak is not just possible, it's unavoidable if Sally doesn't let go of Billy quickly. Check in to see what's going on with Y&R at the moment. For news, updates, and spoilers about The Young and the Restless, return here frequently.